In the main hall, there was a quiet atmosphere. Headmaster Taitsong and the others gazed at the spiritual energy barrier before them. Inside it was the scene of the freshman district, and clearly, all the movements there were visible to them. This little guy. Headmaster Taitsong stared at Mu Chun within the spiritual energy barrier and finally let out a soft smile. There was a sense of relief in his laughter. Ever since he set a condition for Mu Chun, he had been secretly observing him. With Mu Chun's current abilities, breaking through to the heaven-reaching stage within a month would be extremely difficult. This urgency was hard to ignore. Headmaster Taitsong wanted to see what choices Mu Chun would make when faced with this urgency. They were indeed somewhat surprised that Mu Chun turned to Lingxi for help. However, the way he chose to cultivate afterward made their hearts sink slightly. The road to becoming a true powerhouse is full of thorns and hardships, yet those who can walk it are always resilient and never give up easily. The path of cultivation is one where the self is the most important. Relying on others, like how Mu Chun sought Lingxi's spiritual energy to aid his cultivation, was a dangerous path. It might boost his strength rapidly in the short term, but in the long run, it would become a mental obstacle on his way to becoming a true powerhouse. If he continued down this path, his future achievements would be greatly affected. A few days ago, even Hall Master Mou and the others wanted to step in and stop Mu Chun, but Headmaster Taitsong stopped them. If Mu Chun could naturally come to realize this on his own, it would be a great improvement for his mindset. If others intervened, it would not be as effective. But whether Mu Chun could resist the temptation of rapid strength growth and stop this kind of cultivation was uncertain, even for Headmaster Taitsong. The speed of that kind of cultivation was simply too fast and too easy. For the past half-month, they had been quietly waiting. During this time, Mu Chun's strength had been increasing rapidly, but the disappointment in their eyes was slowly accumulating. If Mu Chun were just an ordinary student, they might not be so concerned. However, Mu Chun had already surpassed Shan Songxing, becoming the most outstanding student of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Even among past generations, very few could compare to him. His path to becoming a powerhouse might take him farther than theirs. Thus, they had high expectations for Mu Chun, but now, those expectations were slowly fading. It wasn't until 2 days ago that Mu Chun suddenly stopped his cultivation method. How rare. I thought he would fall deeper into it. Hall Master Mou sighed in relief and couldn't help but praise. If Mu Chun had continued with the previous speed of cultivation, he would have probably broken through to the heaven-reaching stage in just a few more days. But who could have guessed that, at such a critical moment, Mu Chun would suddenly stop? However, Lingxi really went too far. How could she adopt such a method? What exactly is her relationship with Mu Chun? Elder Zhu Tian furrowed his brow and asked. Lingxi's method, apart from potentially affecting Mu Chun's future cultivation, was clearly self-destructive and beneficial only to others. This was a highly unbelievable act, especially considering Lingxi's famously cold and indifferent nature. She had never involved herself in the Academy's affairs unless it was for constructing spiritual arrays, and only then would she give some face to Headmaster Taitsong. But now, Headmaster Taitsong shook his head. Lingxi's origins were shrouded in mystery, but this wouldn't harm their Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Lingxi is still young. Though she is powerful, she lacks experience in the path of cultivation compared to you all. This matter can't really be blamed on her. Let Mu Chun continue cultivating with her. I believe the earlier incident won't happen again. If Mu Chun really breaks through to the heaven-reaching stage, should we allow him to participate in the Sacred Spirit Mountain? Hall Master Mou asked. The strength of someone in the early heaven-reaching stage still has quite a gap when compared to the top young elites of the North Song continent. Although Mu Chun doesn't follow the norm, this is still a very dangerous matter, Elder Zhu Tian said in a deep voice. There's about half a year left before the Academy competition starts. If something happens to Mu Chun now, the loss would be too great for us. Elder Zhu Tian gave a bitter smile. Moreover, our Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy has already had an elimination rate of over 80% in the last 2 Academy competitions. According to the rules, that's a failure. If it happens again this time, some people might use this as an excuse to strip us of our title as one of the 5 great academies. After all, The Sacred Spirit Academy has always been displeased with us, and there are many strong spiritual academies watching us closely." The other elders fell silent. Among the 5 great academies, the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy was the newest, with a weaker foundation compared to the others. Most of the reason they were included as one of the 5 great academies was due to the support of Lord Bei Ming. But if their results didn't improve, they might lose this title. When others say that your own students don't strive and the academy lacks the ability, they manage to silence them completely. Hemph. Over the years, Sacred Spirit Academy has resorted to some rather unscrupulous means to recruit talented students. They even secretly interfered with the Spirit Road. It was because they had their eyes on Ji Xian that they secretly assisted him, almost causing Luo Li's death and forcing Mu Chun to create the spiritual path blood calamity, leading to a massacre and ultimately being expelled from the Spirit Road. Hall Master Mo Yu sneered, clearly dissatisfied with Sacred Spirit Academy. And there's also Xin Songxing and Li Xiantong. They are promising talents, but the incident with the Devil Dragon Child has been quite a blow to them. Headmaster Tai Tsung narrowed his eyes slightly, then gently waved his hand, saying, "As for Sacred Spirit Mountain, let's first see if Mu Chun can break through to the heaven-reaching stage in the remaining time. As for Shan Songxing and the others, I have my own plans. These children just need some time. What are the top generations of the North Tsong continent compared to them?" Upon hearing this, MOU, Elder Zhu Tian, and the others didn't say more, all nodding in agreement. The next day, Mu Chen once again arrived at the quiet mountain peak where Ling Shi was waiting for him. When she saw his figure, a smile appeared on her face. "I thought you wouldn't come." Mu Chen gave a small shrug. "Sorry, I didn't think things through this time," Ling Shi said softly as she looked at Mu Chen. Though she lacked the long years of cultivation experience compared to the heavenly seat elders of the Northern Tsong Spirit Academy, she was still a powerhouse of that level. After reflecting on the situation the day before, she realized her methods might have caused Mu Chen some disadvantages. "It was my request. I should be the one apologizing," Mu Chen shook his head. Though this incident nearly caused a major problem, for him, it was actually a good thing. His cultivation progress had been accelerating too quickly after joining the Northern Tsong Spirit Academy, and his mindset had fluctuated after defeating one opponent after another. This time, it was a test of his mindset, helping him regain control of himself. Ling Shi smiled faintly. "To make up for it, I'll do my best to help you, but it won't be the same way as before." Seeing Ling Shi's beautiful smile, Mu Chen's mood lightened, and he laughed. "As long as it's not spiritual energy fusion, I actually like that method of cultivation." Ling Shi froze for a moment, then a blush appeared on her face. Her lips curled into a teasing smile. "Are you flirting with your elder sister?" Slip of the tongue, slip of the tongue. "Let's get started." Mu Chen cleared his throat and quickly changed the subject. Ling Shi shot him a playful glare, then walked toward the back mountain, with Mu Chen quickly following behind. After about 10 minutes, they stopped in an open area in the back mountain. When Mu Chen arrived here, he looked up in surprise at the sky. The sky here had a faint sense of distortion, and if he focused, he could vaguely see countless lines of light intertwining, seemingly indicating the presence of a spirit formation. Moreover, Mu Chen also felt that the spiritual energy in this place was unusually dense. Even the leaves around them seemed to have condensed spiritual energy liquid, and a thin mist enveloped the entire area. "The spiritual energy here," Mu Chen looked at Ling Shi in surprise. "You should know that the Northern Tsong Spirit Academy has an 8th-level spirit gathering array, right?" Ling Shi smiled. Mu Chen nodded. The 8th-level spirit gathering array was an extremely formidable thing. It was probably the only one in the entire North Tsong continent. However, since joining the Northern Tsong Spirit Academy, Mu Chen had never been inside that array. It was said that the 8th-level spirit gathering array wasn't open to the public and was hidden deep within the academy. Could the 8th-level spirit gathering array be here? The spiritual energy of the entire Northern Tsong Spirit Academy is supplied by that 8th-level spirit gathering array, Ling Shi explained. So you can say that the 8th-level spirit gathering array is the foundation of the Northern Tsong Spirit Academy. It's the most important thing here, and unless there's a special circumstance, it will never be opened. Mu Chen suddenly understood. No wonder he had never heard of anyone actually entering the rumored 8th-level spirit gathering array. So, this place. Mu Chen looked at Ling Shi, still confused. If the 8th-level spirit gathering array was closed, why was Ling Shi mentioning it? The 8th-level spirit gathering array is indeed closed, but I have some methods to extract a little bit of the spiritual energy from it, Ling Shi said with a playful smile. Extract it? Mu Chen's eyes widened. Was that even possible? I've been at the Northern Song Spirit Academy for so long, and the only thing that piqued my interest was that 8th-level spirit gathering array. So, after studying it for a while, although I haven't fully mastered it, I figured out some of its patterns. Ling Shi kept her hands behind her back, tilting her head slightly as she gazed at Mu Chen. As she moved, her long dark hair cascaded down like a waterfall, strikingly beautiful. Her enchanting eyes locked onto Mu Chen's, and with a gentle smile, she spoke. Well, if it's like this, then it should count as proper cultivation, right? You won't oppose it anymore, will you? Brilliant and dazzling spiritual energy shot up from the depths of the mountain, rising into the sky like a pillar holding up the heavens. It connected with the massive whirlpool in the sky, causing the air in the region to grow misty and unclear, making it impossible to see the scenery clearly. This place had undoubtedly become the center of attention for the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy during this time. Every day, countless students turned their gazes toward that direction, their eyes filled with curiosity and anticipation. Over the past 10 days, the agreement between Mu Chen and the headmaster of Tai Tsong had unknowingly spread throughout the academy. Everyone knew that if Mu Chen broke through to the heaven-reaching stage within a month, he might be allowed to attend the opening of the sacred Spirit Mountain on the North Tsong continent. Many of the Academy's senior students were not unfamiliar with this, as it was a matter of great pride for the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. After all, though it was one of the most powerful forces on the continent, it was unable to participate in such grand events that showcased the most talented young individuals of the continent. This, in some sense, had been a blow to the Academy's reputation, and rumors had spread outside, fueling discontent among many students. Some questioned why they, who had been nurtured by sex or powerful families, were not compared to those who, after leaving the academy, had gained tremendous fame in the Great Thousand Worlds. How many Supremes had the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy produced? How many had shone brightly in the Great Thousand Worlds, and how many mighty forces had emerged from their teachings? If all the Supremes who had emerged from the academy were counted, the entire North Tsong continent would likely tremble in fear. Therefore, most of the academy's students supported Mu Chen's wish to attend the sacred Spirit Mountain. Of course, a small number of rational individuals questioned whether Mu Chen was rushing things. After all, even if he reached the heaven-reaching stage, there was still a considerable gap between him and the top young talents of the North Tsong continent. The young elites of the continent were far more formidable than even the Devil Dragon Child. However, no matter what, nearly the entire Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy was focused on the deep mountain, eager to see if this young man, who had charged ahead relentlessly since entering the academy, could soar to even greater heights. As the days passed, 3 more days went by. There were only 2 days left before the 1-month deadline. Freshman District. On the plaza by the lake, a place where the members of the Luo God Society usually practiced, today, although the area was crowded, most people were not in the mood for training. Instead, they had all turned their gazes towards the sky, where a giant pillar of spiritual energy shot up into the air. In these last 2 days, Mu Chen had shown no signs of movement, and there were no indications of any breakthrough. This made many members of the Luo God Society anxious. The entire Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy was watching this closely. Though Mu Chen's reputation wouldn't suffer if he didn't break through by the deadline, some people would still feel disappointed since they had hoped for so much. Luoli, there are only 2 days left. Do you think Mu Chen can make it? Yi Qingling, standing beside the calm-faced girl in the black dress, asked as she clenched her jade-like hand. Luoli smiled faintly. Whether he succeeds or not, it's all the same. Cultivation can't be forced like this. Luoli was somewhat dissatisfied with the 1-month deadline set by the headmaster of Tai Tsong. Previously, Mu Chen had been a bit shaken, partly due to the pressure and the rapid progress he had made since entering the academy, which caused instability in his mindset. This had almost led to a mishap. But regardless, Luoli felt that the headmaster bore some responsibility for this situation. Although Luoli understood that Mu Chen's mindset would stabilize after going through this experience, she was, after all, a teenage girl who cared deeply for someone she liked. It was natural for her to be emotional and protective, and not entirely rational about it. Others might not think the same, though. Yi Qingling sighed helplessly. Cultivation is a personal matter. Why should we care about others' opinions? Luoli smiled. Besides, there are still 2 days left. There's nothing else we can do, Yi Qingling sighed softly. Time passed quietly under the watchful eyes of everyone at the Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Another day had passed, and everyone could sense a growing tension in the air. Even while practicing, people's gazes were drawn to the towering spiritual energy pillar that pierced the sky, all waiting anxiously for the final day. And that final day came, just as everyone had anticipated. The scorching sun shone across the horizon, its warm rays spreading across the vast Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Today, nearly half of the Academy's students had stopped their cultivation, eager to see if a miracle would unfold on this last day. On a quiet mountain peak, Ling Shi sat on the steps in front of a bamboo cottage, her jade-like hand propped under her chin, dark hair cascading down her shoulders. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on the massive spiritual energy pillar in the distance. Beside her, Xun'er also sat, her ponytail swaying gently. There was a hint of worry on her small face. Sister Ling Shi, do you think Brother Mu Chen will succeed? Ling Shi smiled as she stroked her face, shaking her head. I don't know either. The spiritual energy there was so thick that it concealed all of Mu Chen's fluctuations. Even she could not sense his current condition. Xun'er gazed at the blazing sun slowly descending in the sky, clasping her little hands together in prayer, hoping the sunset would be delayed a little longer. However, the little girl's innocent prayer had no effect. The sun continued its slow descent, and noon quietly turned to dusk, the setting sun casting a faint red glow over the Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Yet, there was still no sign of movement from the enormous spiritual energy pillar. Countless students, watching the sun sink lower on the horizon, sighed softly in their hearts. It seemed that once again, the Northern Song Spiritual Academy would be left out of the grand event of the Northern Song continent's top young generation. As the sun gradually disappeared below the horizon, the world darkened. Sigh. In the dimming world, it seemed as if someone sighed. Numerous students shrugged and prepared to disperse, ending the long days of watching. Boom. In that instant, a deep rumble echoed throughout the sky. It was as though a massive wave of spiritual energy surged across the heavens, rolling out in all directions like a tidal wave. Swish. Countless people suddenly looked up, their eyes wide with shock, gazing toward the deep mountains. The enormous spiritual energy pillar there was now rippling with intense fluctuations. The energy emanating from it became increasingly violent and overwhelming. Something's happening. A thunderous cheer erupted from the freshman district, with members of the Luo God Society showing expressions of excitement. Luo Li also lifted her clear eyes, silently gazing at the spiritual energy pillar that was now radiating intense waves of energy. Her jade hand in her sleeve tightened subtly. On the mountain peak, Shun Sangxing and Li Xiantong watched in awe, their faces filled with disbelief. On a small island in a lake, the two sisters, Su Xian and Su Linger, stood gracefully, their eyes shimmering as they stared at the fluctuating spiritual energy pillar in the distance. Elsewhere, figures such as He Yao, Su Huang, and Zhao Qingshan, the prominent figures of the Northern Song Spiritual Academy, also looked up, their expressions shocked. Boom, boom. The massive waves of spiritual energy became even more violent, surging like a flood, wreaking havoc across the land. The dazzling light restored brightness to the darkened world. And just as the spiritual energy waves reached their peak, a sharp, powerful cry suddenly echoed through the mountains, like a roar of a tiger or the cry of a dragon. The cry resonated deeply, carrying with it immense spiritual power. Whoosh! The spiritual energy pillar trembled violently. Everyone watched as a blinding light shot up from its base, immediately appearing high in the sky. Boom! The spiritual energy pillar exploded, scattering into a sea of light. Among the countless glowing points, a beam of light about a foot in size appeared. Within this light was a small figure sitting cross-legged in midair. This figure was strikingly lifelike and bore a perfect resemblance to Mu Chen. It was his divine soul. The seated divine soul slowly opened its eyes. Those deep, star-like pupils shimmered with flowing light, dotted with countless stars, exuding an air of profound mystery. It raised its tiny hand and took a deep breath. Instantly, the countless spiritual energy light specks in the sky transformed into surging torrents, all of which were completely absorbed into its small form in an instant. The radiance surrounding the divine soul grew even more refined, and faint golden glimmers surfaced on its body, making it significantly more condensed than before. Whoosh! The divine soul suddenly shot into the sky, transforming into a streak of light that soared toward the heavens. Fierce winds raged around it, but they could do little to hinder its ascent, as if it now possessed the ability to transcend the heavens and earth. Seeing this, the entire Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy erupted in deafening cheers. They all understood. When a divine soul could leave its physical body and roam freely without perishing, it signified ascension to the heaven-reaching stage. It was clear now, Mu Chen had truly broken through to the final realm of the three heavens, the heaven-reaching stage. Tonight, the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy would be anything but calm. Even though the celestial radiance had long faded, the Academy remained in a state of fervent excitement. Countless students engaged in animated discussions, all centered around the extraordinary phenomenon caused by Mu Chen's breakthrough. Initially, many had believed that Mu Chen would fail to meet his one-month deadline once again. But who could have anticipated that, at the most crucial moment, he would orchestrate such a dazzling reversal? That moment had undoubtedly left countless spectators wide-eyed in astonishment. While the Academy was in an uproar, inside a grand hall at its center, the Grand Song Academy headmaster and the elders were watching a glowing screen that displayed the events of Mu Chen's breakthrough. This little guy actually managed to break through. Impressive. Hall Master Mo clicked his tongue in admiration. Mu Chen had been silent for over half a month, yet at the last moment, he had staged an incredible comeback. Even they couldn't help but feel a hint of shock at the sight. Elder Zhu Tian and the others nodded. Mu Chen was truly worthy of standing shoulder to shoulder with prodigies like Ji Xian from the Spirit Road. His talent was nothing short of extraordinary. Headmaster, now that Mu Chen has reached the heaven-reaching stage, what about the matter concerning the sacred Spirit Mountain? Mo turned to the Grand Song Academy headmaster, his gaze inquiring. The headmaster tapped the armrest of his chair lightly, his expression solemn. Even he hadn't expected Mu Chen to complete his breakthrough. While he was pleased with Mu Chen's potential, he also felt a bit hesitant. A student of such exceptional caliber, if properly guided in the next 6 months, could bring glory to the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy in the upcoming Spiritual Academy Grand Competition. However, if he were to encounter danger on the sacred Spirit Mountain, the loss would be immeasurable. Elder Zhu Tian and the others remained silent, understanding the headmaster's concerns. Losing such an outstanding student would indeed be a huge blow. Perhaps we should explain the situation to Mu Chen. He should understand that he's not yet suited to participate in the sacred Spirit Mountain, an elder with white hair mused. But that would crush his morale. The news of Mu Chen's agreement with the headmaster has already spread. If we stop him now, it might not be well received, Mo countered with a shake of his head. It's still better than losing a top-tier student. This is troublesome. The 5 heavenly seed elders engaged in a heated discussion, but no consensus was reached. Naturally, they wanted the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy to take part in the Sacred Spirit Mountain event. After all, it was the most prestigious gathering for the younger generation on the North Song continent. Their absence over the years had invited many rumors, which they had chosen to ignore. But deep down, they harbored a sense of frustration. Now that Mu Chen wanted to participate, if he performed outstandingly, it would silence all those rumors. This would be greatly beneficial to the Academy. Yet, it also carried the risk of losing Mu Chen, their most promising student. Was this a gamble worth taking? Sitting at the head of the hall, the Grand Song Academy headmaster gazed at the debating elders. After a long moment, he finally raised a hand, silencing them. Slowly, he spoke. Since we set the conditions for Mu Chen beforehand, and he has now met them, we have no reason to stop him. Then, the 5 heavenly seat elders looked at him in anticipation. Was this a confirmation that Mu Chen would be allowed to participate? However, the headmaster paused before continuing in a solemn tone. This matter is indeed perilous, so we must not take it lightly. MOU. Notify Mu Chen. Tomorrow, he will head to the punishment platform. The next day, when the news about Mu Chen's final test was released, the North Song Spiritual Academy, which had just been buzzing all night, immediately stirred again with excitement. Freshman District. After resting for the night, Mu Chen arrived at the plaza with Luo Li. As soon as they arrived, they were surrounded by many excited members of the Luo God Society, their chattering voices creating a lively and noisy scene. Yi Qingling waved her hand, pushing the excited crowd back a little, then furrowed her brows slightly and said, "Why another test? Haven't you already reached the heaven-reaching stage? Is the headmaster and the others going back on their word?" "The headmaster and the others are only concerned for my safety. After all, those attending the Sacred Spirit Mountain are truly the top young talents from the North Song continent. Even the Devil Dragon Child isn't considered the strongest there," Mu Chen said with a smile, showing no resentment, as he understood the hesitation of the headmaster and others. "Today's test may not be easy, so be careful," Luo Li murmured beside him. "Yeah, let's go. I want to see what kind of challenge the headmaster and the others have prepared for me." Mu Chen smiled and nodded, then grabbed Luo Li's hand and flew into the air, heading directly towards the punishment platform. Behind them, nearly all the members of the Luo God Society followed. Clearly, with such a situation today, it was impossible to focus on cultivation. Once they left the freshman district, they noticed that many students from other areas were watching them closely. However, by now, Mu Chen had grown used to such attention and remained calm, soaring through the sky. In other directions, countless students also took to the air, following them to see what was happening. When Mu Chen reached the punishment platform, he was stunned to see that the sky around the platform was already crowded with figures. It seemed that countless students had been waiting there for a while. In the front, Mu Chen saw some familiar faces: Shun Songxing, Li Xiantong, Su Xian, He Yao, and other top students from the North Song Spiritual Academy were all present. "Mu Chen, go for it. We're cheering for you." Su Linger, standing next to Su Xian, waved her little hand and called out cheerfully, "Brother Mu Chen." A youthful voice came from not far away. Mu Chen turned to see Xun'er had also come, and beside her, dressed in a snowy white gown with a face as cold as ice, was Ling Shi, who also appeared. Ling Shi caught Mu Chen's gaze, and a faint smile appeared on her cold face, a fleeting, beautiful smile that caused many students around them to be in awe. Immediately, some couldn't help but feel a bit frustrated. This Mu Chen was truly infuriating. He seemed to have connections with nearly all the beautiful top students from the North Song Spiritual Academy. Mu Chen smiled at them but didn't speak, then shifted his gaze toward the massive punishment platform. There, he saw the headmaster of Taitsong and several other elders from the North Song Spiritual Academy already waiting. Mu Chen moved quickly, landing on the stone platform amidst the countless gazes. He cupped his hands and respectfully said, "Mu Chen greets the headmaster and the elders." The headmaster of Tai Song nodded slightly, smiling as he looked at Mu Chen. "Mu Chen, first, congratulations on successfully reaching the heaven-reaching stage. Although I mentioned before that if you reach this stage, we'd consider letting you participate in this Sacred Spirit Mountain. I want you to understand the strength of the opponents there. We don't want to lose another outstanding student like you." Mu Chen's expression grew serious, and he spoke slowly. "I understand, headmaster. So, if there are any other tests, I am ready to accept them." The headmaster of Taitsong nodded in satisfaction. "This final test is very simple. It's just an evaluation of your combat strength." As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his sleeve, and 3 dark golden beams of light shot out from his sleeve, landing on the stone platform. At that moment, it felt as though the entire platform trembled slightly, and the heavy sound made countless students shiver. The dark golden light slowly dissipated, and all eyes were fixed on the platform. Then, their pupils shrank, and gasps of surprise filled the air. There, standing before them, were three massive dark golden giants, each about 10 zhang tall. These giants seemed to be made of metal, their unyielding bodies covered in spiritual patterns. The battle-worn surface of their bodies showed countless battle scars. They stood silently, exuding a cold and powerful aura that subtly radiated from them. Amidst the sea of people, there was an outburst of gasps. Some of the older students had their faces filled with shock. This spirit battle puppet, said to be specially made by the punishment hall, was an incredibly formidable combat puppet. There were only 18 of them in the entire punishment hall, and each one possessed power comparable to a late-stage heaven-reaching expert. Moreover, these battle puppets had no sense of pain. Their bodies were extremely tough and nearly impossible to shake. As a result, even a late-stage heaven-reaching expert would find it incredibly difficult to deal with them in battle. But now, Headmaster Taitsong had just brought out 3 of these battle puppets. What exactly was he trying to do? Yi Qingling and the members of the Luo God Society wore grim expressions, and even Luo Li's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. 3 spirit battle puppets were equivalent to 3 warriors of the same level as the Devil Dragon Child. Mu Chen. Headmaster Taitsong ignored the noisy murmurs around him. He pointed at the 3 battle puppets and said solemnly, "Defeat them, and you will earn the qualification to enter Sacred Spirit Mountain. Otherwise, even if you claim that I have gone back on my word, I will not agree. I do not wish for our Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy to lose such an outstanding student. This is the final test, Mu Chen. Do you dare to accept it?" Countless gazes gathered on the tall, handsome young man as his figure stepped forward. Many clenched their fists. This test was simply too harsh. Under the watchful eyes of all, Mu Chen's expression remained as calm as ever. Without saying a word, he simply took a step forward. The crowd trembled in their hearts as Mu Chen, through his actions, made his choice. He had accepted the challenge. Mu Chen's step, though small, made the atmosphere feel tense. Countless students' gazes shook as they watched. This was not what they expected. These 3 spirit battle puppets were on the same level as late-stage heaven-reaching experts. Even someone with the strength of the Devil Dragon Child would be forced to flee when facing them. While Mu Chen had made some breakthroughs, it seemed impossible for him to defeat these puppets, which were designed solely for combat. These puppets felt no fear, would not retreat, and defeating them seemed an impossible task for most students. In the distance, Shen Songxing and Li Xuantong's faces grew serious. The 3 battle puppets made them feel a sense of dread as well. Headmaster Taitsong was not holding back with this final test. "Do you think Mu Chen can pass?" They exchanged a look, both sharing the same doubt in their eyes. On the execution platform, Hall Master Mou and the other elders stared at Mu Chen, who had walked forward. The boy seemed to have considerable confidence in himself to take on such a test. Headmaster Taitsong slightly nodded, then smiled and said, "Since you've made your choice, we will say no more. Everything will be determined by the outcome." "Yes," Mu Chen respectfully answered. Then, Headmaster Taitsong flicked his sleeve, releasing an invisible wave of energy. His deep voice echoed, "Let it begin." Boom. As soon as Headmaster Taitsong's voice fell, the 3 battle puppets suddenly opened their eyes, their pupils glowing with a dark golden light. Intricate spirit patterns appeared on their cold, solid bodies, and a powerful aura radiated from them. Boom. The 3 battle puppets, their golden eyes locked onto Mu Chen, began moving with great strides. The entire stone platform trembled under their massive feet as they charged toward Mu Chen with violent force. Despite their giant size, their speed was astonishing. Within just a few breaths, they were right in front of Mu Chen. The golden fists, gleaming with light, crashed through the air, accompanied by a sound that made the skin crawl as they slammed toward him. Roar. Within Mu Chen's body, the roar of a dragon echoed as a dragon-shaped silhouette coiled around him. With a flick of his body, Mu Chen moved like a shadow, retreating swiftly. Boom! The three massive golden fists slammed into the ground where Chen had just been standing. The surface of the ground, made of special materials, cracked under the force. However, facing their astonishing offensive, Chen kept retreating as if avoiding their sharp attacks. The dragon shadow flickered, causing his speed to increase drastically, allowing him to dodge one terrifying iron fist after another, each one powerful enough to send him flying effortlessly. Fortunately, due to his improved strength, Chen's speed had also been enhanced. Otherwise, he would have been reduced to a pile of flesh by the three war puppets long ago. But continuing to dodge like this wouldn't count as passing the test. Countless pairs of eyes in the sky were fixed on the nerve-wracking chase below, their palms tightly gripping, sweat dripping from their hands. However, facing the encirclement of the three war puppets, such evasive tactics were never the most suitable solution. Boom! Just as some of the students were thinking this, a sudden change occurred in the field. One of the war puppets erupted with dazzling golden light. Its body was covered in glowing spiritual patterns, and at the same time, its speed increased. In just one step, it caught up to Chen, who was using the dragon sword art to dodge. Its massive body appeared in front of Chen, casting a shadow over him, bringing with it a tremendous pressure. Bang! In its emotionless golden eyes, a golden light-filled fist shot forward like a blazing sun, carrying enough terrifying power to obliterate a mountain, striking toward Chen's chest with the speed of a thunderbolt. Whoosh! Around them, a chorus of gasps erupted, with Xun'er, Xun'er, Linger, and others all showing signs of concern. Taking a punch from this war puppet was no trivial matter. Amid the gasps, Chen's elusive figure flashed out. He looked at the oncoming golden light fist, and a sharp glint passed through his black eyes. Boom! A black lightning arc erupted from Chen's body, wrapping around him, causing his figure to seem to rise an inch in the air. Thunder God Body. Chen clenched his 5 fingers, showing no sign of retreat. He threw a punch in return, and black lightning arcs flickered around his arm, releasing an astonishing wave of energy. 2 fists, of completely disproportionate sizes, roared past, tearing through the air, then collided violently in the midst of the vibrating gazes. Clang! At the moment of impact, a sound like the clash of gold and iron rang out, and a visible wave of violent force spread out. The ground beneath them cracked open, and Chen was sent tumbling back several dozen steps, but to everyone's surprise, the war puppet was also pushed back. Its giant foot left deep craters in the ground before it finally collapsed, sitting heavily and crushing the ground beneath it. Numerous people stared, mouths agape, eyes wide with shock. Chen had actually managed to knock the war puppet over with a single punch in this one-on-one confrontation. How terrifying must his strength be? Chen steadied his body, gently shaking his arm, his expression serious. This war puppet was indeed formidable. If he hadn't broken through yet, this single punch might have injured him. But unfortunately for it, he had grown far stronger than when he fought the devil dragon child a month ago. But at this rate, I can't deal with all 3 of these war puppets. Chen's gaze turned to the remaining 2. These war puppets had no sense of pain, no fear. Once the battle began, they would never stop, so he couldn't simply rely on overwhelming pressure. He could only fight head-on. But in a one-on-one clash, Chen wasn't afraid. However, with 3 war puppets and their usual tactics, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat them all. Chen's eyes flickered. Since that's the case, he'd better take a more ruthless approach. Boom! The 3 war puppets charged forward once more, their fists howling through the air, as if capable of destroying mountains. Chen stamped his foot on the ground, and his figure shot toward the sky. Then, his palms came together, and a low, fierce shout rang out from his throat. Immediately, a crimson light beam shot up from the top of his head, rising into the clouds. Within the red light, a massive black magic pillar emerged, towering between heaven and earth. As the pillar appeared, a suffocating aura of malevolence spread from it. It seemed to hum and tremble, as if resisting, but as it struggled, the dark purple patterns wrapped around the pillar flickered with faint light, suppressing its resistance. That's the great Xun'er demon pillar? Headmaster Taitsong and the elders' faces changed drastically. Their eyes shone with a flash of brilliance as they were shaken. With their keen sight, they could immediately tell that the magic pillar in front of them wasn't just an illusion. It was the true form of the Great Xun'er Demon Pillar. The Great Xun'er Demon Pillar seems to have been suppressed and sealed by something. The Grand Song Academy headmaster, with his sharp eye for detail, quickly noticed the dark purple patterns on the surface of the pillar. These patterns emanated a completely different energy from the pillar itself, but it was exactly these patterns that suppressed the pillar's malevolent aura, forcing it to obey Mu Chen's control. This discovery stunned the headmaster even more. He gradually regained his composure and cast a deep glance at Mu Chen, who was floating in the sky. Clearly, there was some secret hidden within him, something capable of sealing away such an ancient evil artifact. What kind of terrifying power could that be? Boom! The three war puppets, undeterred by the appearance of the Great Xun'er Demon Pillar, stomped their feet and charged upwards, attacking Mu Chen with savage force. Mu Chen looked down from above at the three beams of golden light rushing toward him, a faint smile curling on his lips. This was his first time wielding the Great Xun'er Demon Pillar. Although it was in a suppressed state, such an ancient artifact was beyond the reach of ordinary power. With such a weapon in hand, Mu Chen was confident he could easily defeat any opponent at the late heaven-reaching stage. He held his hands out, and the enormous black pillar suddenly plunged downward, like a mountain crashing down with waves of malevolent energy. It seemed to shatter the void, descending with unstoppable force. Amidst the horrified gazes, it landed heavily on the three golden light war puppets. Bang! A deafening explosion reverberated through the air as the massive black pillar crashed down. The three war puppets raised their golden hands to try and support the base of the pillar, but such an ancient evil artifact was far beyond their ability to withstand. Everyone watched in shock as the black pillar continued its descent, and with a final thud, it struck the vast stone platform, causing the earth to crumble. The three war puppets were smashed deep into the ground. The pillar stood upright on the punishment platform, cracks spreading outward in all directions. Even though the three war puppets were trapped beneath it, the pillar remained motionless, radiating an overwhelming malevolent energy. Countless people stared wide-eyed at the scene. Mu Chen descended from the sky and landed atop the Great Xun'er Demon Pillar. He gazed down at the three war puppets, now trapped beneath the pillar and unable to move. He then looked toward the distant Grand Song Academy headmaster and the other elders, who had expressions of astonishment.